Hey, it's Latasha. Latasha who? I am Latasha, TV writer and producer, bringing you another new story. This time, I am talking about love. This story follows a Brooklyn pistol who's evaluating her journey of love between 1 out of 3 suitors and reviewing it on her podcast using the guidance of historical women from the past, such as Maya Angelou, Bell Hooks, Toni Morrison, to define a new way for today's women to go about love. But she is to discover that the cause and cure from her detachment of love is due to the estranged relationship with her mother, and therefore the title, She Loves Me Not. I want to say something brilliant, poignant, and timeless. This is for the lovers. If you are a fan of Love Jones, if you loved Barry Jenkins' Moonlight, that yearning but never quite getting or obtaining, yeah, we're playing right in there. And I've got a phenomenal team. I wrote it, my guy here, Tristan Taylor, directed it, my girl here, Brittany Janae, is gonna shoot it, and my guy here, Ade, is gonna produce it. Now, this is the moment where you guys have the power where you can get involved. So when you join this campaign, you will get a customized portrait of roses featuring your beautiful face. Or if you're a lover of film, Tristan is going to design a director's book with all of his show notes, shot lists, inspos, and of course, exclusive photos and videos from the cast and crew. So this is it. Join the She Loves Me Not crowdfunding campaign today. Pledge and make sure you follow us on all of our social media pages that you can find on Instagram, Facebook, and X, Twitter. So make sure you guys get involved today, and I'll see you on the internet.
See you on the internet. That's how we do it. Welcome to this wonderful live stream. Love stream. It's a love stream and a live stream. We're definitely having a conversation about love, a chat about love. I am your host, Jameer Pond. I am a storyteller, a creative director, and an overall nice black man. There goes my face and stuff. All right. I have been tapped on the shoulder to host this wonderful panel. I'm just jumping all in with different words about finding forgiveness for your parents. I am honored to be here and honored to facilitate this conversation. I think it's going to be a deep one. So all I'm saying is you might want to grab some Kleenex or Kleenex if you pronounce it like that. Have it handy because we're going to talk about love in a different way. All right. So without further ado, I want to introduce the She Loves Me Not team. First, this beautiful human being is an LA-based WGA TV writer who acquired a script development deal with Netflix and was featured in The Hollywood Reporter, Blau, and Variety, Flat Out, for her residency in Mara Brock Akil's The Writers' Colony. She also wrote, produced, and starred in a recent sketch comedy series, which I was in, called Just Latasha's Interactions. It's featuring me. That was in quotes. Okay? And was a staff writer on the digital dramedy series, The Psychological Evolution of Fuckboys, for Keke Palmer's Key TV network. Please give a round of applause, everybody, for Latasha. La, what's up?
Hi, Mir. How are you? Oh,
Hey.
Yeah. We hit that Jason Derulo. You feel me?
Yeah, it's Derulo five. How are you?
I'm so good, and I'm so happy to have you here. Thank you so much for hosting tonight.
You already know when it comes to talk about parents, I'm your man's.
Yeah.
Therapy here. Okay.
We love it. We love Black men in therapy. We love emotionally, intellectually Black men.
I'll be trying. You know what I'm saying? I just be trying not to cry and hurt people and get all my shit. Just want to get all my shit out. All right.
Right.
All right. So, hey, stay right there. I'm going to introduce the rest of our wonderful panel. Okay. This wonderful human being is an award-winning director and writer from St. Louis. That's the home of the Chicken Head, if you remember, who created the short film Foxes. And it's about the depiction of the necessity of mental health for Black men is what we're talking about, all right? His clients also include Red Bull, Black Lives Matter, Amazon Music, and Netflix Strong Black Lead. Please welcome to the panel, Tristan Hill. Tristan.
Hello. What's up, everybody? What's
How
going
you doing,
on?
man?
What up,
The
Tristan?
chicken here was a little we'll allow it. We'll allow it.
Come on, man. You didn't see the shoulders?
I saw it. We'll allow
Oh,
it.
I didn't. All right, next time I'll do it privately, and then you let me know.
And then
If I can bring it
we'll get
public.
you right for the next one.
Okay, all right. I've been trying this for 20 years.
It's all good, man. You kind of got to be from there to really to feel it, but it's all good.
My bad. I'm sorry. It's good to see you. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too, brother.
Yes. All right. So stay tight. All right. Our last panelist is a wonderful human being, a proud Howard University HU grad. I didn't go there, but I got a sweatshirt. All right. That transitioned from law to entertainment over the course of the pandemic to tell stories about the diversity of the Black community with his production company, the Runtime Studios. He created the festival-winning short film Good Day, which is featured in Revolt TV's Short and Fresh HBCU segment. Please give a wonderful round of applause and welcome to Ade Johnson. What is going on?
What's up? I love the energy that you bring in, Jameer. This is great.
Hey, I understand it's going to get heavy, so I want to make sure we as light as possible going into it.
Before we start.
Yeah. Before we get to crying. All right.
What's up, everyone?
Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for having me. I can't wait to have this conversation. Before we get into it, I want to make sure that we give enough ample time to really talk about why we're here. And make sure people, y'all got to dig into y'all pockets a little bit because we got to start campaign for this wonderful project. La, what it's about.
Thank you so much, Jameer. She Loves Me Not is a short film I made because I developed the pilot concept while I was in Mara Brockett Kill's residency, the Writers Colony. And it was something that intellectually challenges, questions, and is curious about love and how we can be more present and more intentional about it. What are all of the fragments that we need to include in having a fuller, healthier love for men and for women? And so She Loves Me Not follows a Brooklyn-bred pistol who is a podcaster that reviews her non-monogamous love life. And she is dealing with 3 different suitors, 3 different men, and she's to discover that the cause and cure from her detachment of love is the estrangement she has with her mother. Hence tonight's topic, forgiving our parents and engaging our parents this way. And as you guys can see, we have a ticker running below for our Seed and Spark campaign. We cannot make this production without your help. The link is running across the video. The link is in the description box. The link is in all of our bios across all of our social medias. We are big. Please join our Seed and Spark campaign and fund this series. We have tiers starting at $15, $25. Even if you guys just follow us on the Seed and Spark page, leave a comment or share it. That helps us so much as filmmakers. It spreads us to the audience that would be able to financially support us. And we have such cool gifts. If you guys go to this She Loves Me Not Twitter and Instagram, you will see we're sharing such beautiful rose portraits of our donors. You guys all get that. Tristan, our director, is making a director's binder. We'll have the shot list and the show notes and the script notes, and it's going to be so full and beautiful. And we have tiers all the way up to what you can handle and what you need. So that's what this series is about. This is a 4-part live stream happening every Monday night, 6 p.m. PST on the Just Latasha YouTube channel. Subscribe, and we are on tonight, episode 2 out of 4. Next week, I'll tell you who the guest is at the end of the show. How about that? But it's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
It's a big deal who we got next week. So you don't want to miss that, and I'm excited to start the conversation tonight. But first, before we get into that, my guys, Tristan, the director, Ade, the producer, do you want to share why you joined and got into this journey and telling the story of She Loves Me Not?
Yeah, I'm gonna let Ade go first this time.
No, that's good. That's good. Thanks for throwing it to me. I honestly was very impressed by what you wrote here, Latasha. It's just so shout out to you. You really wrote something very beautiful, very interesting, and very needed during this time. And that's honestly the main reason why I wanted to jump in on this, because frankly, I feel like we've been in this kind of constant, cyclical cycle. We've been in this cycle where we see so much Black content, in particular about Black relationships and love and all of that. And then we see these valleys, and this seems like a valley right now. So frankly, seeing something that's going to talk about love from a very, from a very pointed standpoint, from a very investigative standpoint, one that involves research, one that references, all these theories and literaries, all about love by bell hooks, honestly was just like, it seemed perfect to me. So shout out to you, Latasha, because you and what you wrote are really why I wanted to jump in on this.
I agree.
Thank you so much.
For myself, I had been wanting to do something in the romance place for a long time. It's a genre that I love. It's a genre that I watch all the time. It's a genre that is comforting when things are not going well, so you can find something to believe in again. And I had wanted to do it for a long time. Latasha and I have followed each other for a few years now. I saw a tweet that said, I want to make something about love. DM'd her immediately. The ball started rolling from there. And then once I got the script and I was like, oh, this woman feels very much like how a lot of us who know all the things to say, can follow all the things, know the right, hot topics to discuss, to be on the right side of history. And then when we get into our real day-to-day lives, the nigga that we actually texting, the girl that we actually texting, the relationship that we are actually building outside of our Twitter space, we really not following all that shit. And I was like, oh, this is real. This is what love is really feeling like for people my age right now. And then when it got into what the topic of the day will be about, you saw how the main character's love life was affected by the love that she saw growing up. I was like, oh, this is what all of us are dealing with. And all of us are trying to unlearn to be able to find a way to learn to fall in love now.
Well stated, definitely well stated. And I appreciate the kind words from my team. Thank you guys so much. I'm equally as impressed with your portfolios and your work history as well. Yes, so the main character, her name is Zosha. She is to discover that her blockage in love is from the heartbreak, the original heartbreak that she's experiencing with the relationship she has with her mother. And in order to find true love with one of the many guys on her nigga Ferris wheel, her nigga carousel, she does have to address the generational blockage. And so that's what we're discussing tonight. Forgiving our parents, healing those, generational conversations in those tough spots. And so I will toss it to Jameer to lead us into the conversation tonight.
Layup. All right. Thank you for the thought. So I think this is a very poignant topic, especially when we talk about dating, we talk about relationships, we talk about building relationships. It starts from somewhere, and a lot of that foundations come from our first loves, or who are supposed to be our first loves, our parents. So let's just jump into the conversation right now. Was there a moment where our parents, for you all, and me as well, where they transition from like these all-knowing beings, these sources, these demigods in a sense, to just simply flawed human beings? Like, when was that realization that you have? Let me start with Tristan first, and then we'll go around.
Well, my mother has the link to this, so I'm gonna say no.
Okay. All right.
Has never changed. It's still all knowing, no flaws. No, I mean, I think realistically, you get older and you start to experience things that you were aware that your parents lived through, and you see them in a certain way, and y'all get into conversations, and things change. I know for like my mother, what's been very good is the moment I went to college, we sat down and we had a conversation, and she was like, I want you to always feel comfortable with like anything that you bring to me where you fail and where you fucked up. I need to be the first one that you go to so I can try to fix it. I can do whatever. So my mom's always been very transparent about shortcomings that she's had in life, things that she's overcome, just so like when I get to them, I know how to handle them. I've already had an experience for it. And then things that you grow older, you feel that you are smarter than them, that you're better capable at handling than they are. And you're like, oh, I wouldn't have done it that way. And y'all have conversations like, yeah, you kind of don't get it. And it grows from there. But I think also we're at a point where we're learning more. There's new terminology for how you can talk to people. There's all these new things. So they're also flawed in like they don't live in the same world that we live in, where they have to keep up with. You have to call people this now. You have to talk to people this way, and you have to teach them that. But she's very like receptive to all that.
Yeah, I love that. I find that like though there's like generational gaps, there are a lot of things that are cyclical though in terms of just like experiences. And I remember I was having a conversation with my mom like last week, and she was just telling me like, your parents give you what they could give you.
Right.
At that point in time, they can give you what they only have. And I had heard that prior, and I'm glad, she broke it down to me again, because it just made me like look at my parents as more as humans again. So this conversation, I think, is just like so evergreen because it's always gonna come up. Like our parents are,
yeah. And I remember I told somebody last week, like I'm 36 now. My mom had me at 22, and I was like, yo, I don't want to. I can't handle a child right now, so I can't imagine like having a kid 14 years ago and figuring this shit out. I'd be lost today. So like some of our parents was also like growing up at the same time,
Yes, that's a big one. Not realizing how young they were with all of the adult responsibilities. Like I think my parents had me at 21, 22, and then my dad owned the 3-story home that he got from his mom, and then they was working, and then my sister came 5 years later, and like I was like, if I was 25, 26 with 2 kids and I would have pulled my wig out. Like I would not have, like, I don't know the mentality that you would have to be so down to do it while unready.
I wouldn't have been on here talking to y'all.
5 kids to feed, like
would have had that clean CDL license.
Ain't nothing wrong with that either.
Ain't nothing wrong with it either.
Just you see how much of a shift. I also learned about like the sacrifice that it takes to be a parent, and to not have all the answers, but to be in a position where you kind of have to.
You're supposed to.
Yeah. Dave, where did that kind of click happen for you in terms of your parents?
Well, I mean, just thinking about your question in terms of when did I start realizing that they're not these magical beings. I had to really think about it because, and mind you, unlike Tristan, my parents can barely navigate Facebook, let alone Instagram. So I'm gonna be as honest as I can be because I know they're not watching. But anyway, I think, funny enough, I used to challenge them a lot when I was younger. So I think it was when I was young. I was probably a teenager when I started realizing that they're not so perfect because, and it's silly stuff. It's basically stuff like, wait, you told me I was supposed to do it this way last week, and now all of a sudden I did it this way this week, and it don't work. Like, all right, so y'all are not actually consistent all the time with respect to, what you have me do or what your instructions are or what have you. The other piece is like, typical stuff with your parents. They work a long, hard day. They come back, and they naturally sometimes their anger or their frustration, they can take it out on you. So something that's not that big of a deal, they all of a sudden blow it up. So I remember honestly as a teenager, like experiencing this and being like, oh, so y'all are not perfect. y'all have your. I
got a point after you finish about what you just said.
No. I mean, that's pretty much it. It's just this concept of like they're emotional people. They're flawed people. They don't know the answers to everything. That's so for me, honestly, teenage years is when it really, really started where I was like, what you just said don't really make sense, but we'll rock with it.
So that frontal lobe forming and you getting some context.
Absolutely. So funny story. The thing that you just said about them getting mad at work and taking it out on you is a term called anger displacement that I learned in high school. And we all have Black mothers. So I remember the moment I learned the term and then I used it on my mother. And I said, what you're mad about is not me. You're mad about work. And that's called anger displacement. And we all got black moms, so it went exactly
that backfired.
not the direction that I thought it was going to go.
Yeah.
Completely left.
Completely left.
I really wish I would tell my parents as a teenager, you know what? You're not really mad at me. Your job is what you mad at. And you
want to bring your outside therapy talk to me in my house and tell me about me?
While I'm paying for everything that you own.
Yes, your whole life. You gonna educate me?
That's one of the biggest parts, is that I think our parents were so focused on their role being authoritative that it's sort of shocking to the point of offense when you see them, right? You're not really as a child supposed to ever like see them. I know, like when I was a child, like my dad knew all of the answers. He was so smart, and he was socially praised for his intelligence. He is such an intelligent man since he was a kid, and damn near genius and flying through grades. And so when you raise your daughter to be as smart and well-read and explore the world and challenge and ask questions and say why and be of service and be of justice, and I go, what about you?
Yo, that part, Tosh, no, for real, because it's so interesting how much, like, because I feel like I had a similar like experience with my parents. They read a lot. They watched the news. My dad like read the newspaper every single day, so he was always questioning, always inquisitive or whatever. So it is interesting that when they raise a child that they encourage to also question and to be curious about, that the minute that it turns to them, the minute it turns to them, it's like, whoa, hold on. That's not the gift, or at least that's not what I assumed you were going to use this gift for, type of thing. So I resonate with that a lot, honestly.
Yeah, it's an outside gift, not an inside gift.
Say that one again. That was really nice.
It's an outside gift, not an inside gift.
You was trying to teach your mom displaced anger while you was a teenager. You supposed to use that at the post office.
Okay.
There's some like really cool comments coming in. Damien says Jameer has done a ton of work when it comes to healing from parental shortcomings. Look how your work shows up in the world, Jameer. It resonates.
That is powerful, because it is true. Like I think it also takes a lot to be able, for me, I'll speak for me. It took a lot for me to be able to see my parents like that as humans. I think one of my big first heartbreaks came from my parents. My parents got divorced, they separated. It hurt. My dad left, and I was mad at him for years, like angry. And I think I was angry because of how good of a father I thought he was while he was in the house. And when he wasn't there, like, it brought along an absence and a callous for me that was just like rough. What I did though was, because I suppressed a lot, I couldn't tell him all these things. So a lot of my anger came out on my mom at times, like, you know, because my mom was the one who stayed, so she was dependable. So I could have screaming matches with my mom, but like with my dad, I was very like mute and siloed when it came to my emotions towards him. So I want to pose this question: when did you first experience your first parental heartbreak? What did that look like for y'all?
For me, it was definitely the divorce. Watching, I think as a kid, you don't know what chaos is. You have no idea like what is normal. So I was used to them fighting in the house. And so when mom left, I was like, now what? Wait a minute. It was such a big shift to have a parent like leave. And I think that was the time where it was just like watching my dad grieve, my mom making visits and trying to just string things together. And it's such an unfortunate time, because I was going away to college and I wasn't home. So my sister was like dealing about it like all by herself. And she was so young and not really understanding like the new dynamics. Mom wasn't home, and big sister's not home, and dad's like emotionally unavailable. And I think that was like a major heartbreak for the family, for sure.
Can I ask you this just real quick before we get to everybody else? What was that experience like, watching your father grieve? I remember when my parents separated, thankfully my grandmother was present. I never got to see my mother emote. And I remember somebody asked me, do you think that was like a good or a bad thing that was shield from you? And I told her, I was like, I kind of see both sides. Like, I'm grateful, like I had an opportunity to be a child, but there was also this ignorance to how severe divorce was and played a part in both sides. So how did you feel seeing like your parent grieve at that moment?
I think I just stepped up. I just sort of took on the role of caretaker and the sort of solid rock for everyone, which gives me my emotional intelligence today. Like, I know how to talk to people's soul. Like, I know how to talk to your heart. I know where the wound is. I know where the pain is, and I know how to like sweep it all up for the community. Because I had to be. And it was difficult. I put my emotions to the side for the betterment of the family, which women are sort of taught and ushered to do. But we couldn't all break down. I was like, this is a lot. Like, we couldn't all break down. That was too much.
Tristan, I'll go
go to me. I would say my first emotional heartbreak as well from a parent is probably from my father. My father was not present in the way that he should have been, and that was hard. I'm like the constant why don't he want me, man, the Will Smith joint.
Yep.
And I think like I took a lot of that out on my mom as well, being mad about stuff that I had no like context of, why isn't he here? Why doesn't he want to be here? And you don't understand like somebody who's there every day, and you're like, they don't really get the credit for being there every day because they're there disciplining you and all this stuff. And you like, yeah, but where's this nigga at? And I see like my friends out with their dads, and I had some friends that had like, and it's so funny like the understanding you have as a child. I had some friends that had shitty dads, but my mindset was like, but that nigga there, and you don't realize how much better off you are. And then I lived in a house where I had a grandfather that was an amazing grandfather, always there. My uncle was there. He did, he was 16 when I came around, so he did the best that he could to like step up and be that. But I was never at home by myself. My grandma, my mom was always there. My uncle and my grandfather were always there. So they stepped up in that regard, and I was still always searching for like, but where's my dad? And it's something that I didn't realize until he passed away a couple years ago from COVID. And I found out, and I was on the phone crying with like my mom, and my mom was like, I feel sorry for you because this is the first time in your life that I can't fix a thing for you, and I don't know what to do. So then like I'm calling, my grandma, and my grandma was like, yeah, I understand it, but it's not your fault. I was like blaming myself for being able to reach out more. And she was like, it'll never be the child's fault for the parent not wanting to be there. And then we get to my uncle, and like I didn't know it was my uncle. Like my uncle's very blunt. My thesis film is actually based off of us. It's called Lions and Lambs because one of my best friends was like, y'all are the same person, but he's so much harder than you. So I caught him on the phone with him, and I'm like feeling bad. And he was like, fuck that nigga. He was like, that nigga's he was like, I get you sad, but fuck him. He wasn't there. You've done amazing things in your life regardless. And he was like, look at all the niggas that stepped up and gave you fatherhood that had you had him, wouldn't have had the desire to be in your life in that way. And he was like, you've had a ton of niggas that taught you how to be a man. So like, I know you're upset about not having him, but you've had so many fathers way past just that one person that you might not have liked, because he was extremely religious. I'm not super religious. So like our vibes might not have even matched anyway.
But it's so interesting because like I think that's a good point. I was having a conversation in therapy about like deconstructing like the idea of like what my life would have been like if my dad was in my life actively in the same house. And it was very much, Uncle Phil like it was everything that I conceptualized from media. That's and the reality is that even Uncle Phil wasn't Uncle Phil. Like it's a show. but I watched
It's written.
watched that for so long that I internalized that this is what manhood's supposed to be, fatherhood's supposed to be, and it's crazy that these concepts come from 22 minutes.
Right.
Mhm.
So,
But it's like
Mhm.
that. He there every day you get off of work.
every day,
Every day you come from school.
yes,
He's there to parent you in some aspect, you know. And I think
Mm.
like even now is something that I'm unlearning. I think when I think of like me becoming a parent, there's still moments where I'm like, oh, I have to be better than my father. I have to be better than my father. I have to be there to do this because he wasn't there. And it's like you're still allowing someone who wasn't there to have a hold on you.
Mm.
And there's things that like in that unlearning that aspect, also like letting go and a bit of forgiveness for yourself, not for them.
For sure.
Mhm.
Ade, I would love to hear your point of view.
Well, honestly, I was gonna say, Tasha, if you could, because it really coincides with what I was about to say. But Lex's last comment at 6:30, I feel like is a perfect kind of segue if you want to throw it up there. Even people who have active parents still get issues. I
Yes.
guess that just comes with it. So like, I'm listening to I don't know too much about. I'm really learning about y'all parents and y'all relationships as we having this discussion. And I realize as we're talking that I'm probably the only person in this conversation right now who has two parents that are still currently married. But it's so interesting though, because when you talk about that first heartbreak, it's what I've started to learn, and this was more so in adulthood, how much, and specifically when I'm currently married, specifically when I began my relationship with my wife now, Lola, almost 9 years ago, and we're getting to the point of marriage that I started to realize that the marriage that I had in my mind, the model of my parents, is not the marriage that, for one, that I thought it was, and two, the one that I would want to model my own marriage off of, right? And the grief kind of and the shock around just that concept, I think, was very jarring for me. And it's interesting because it's never placed in the same kind of conversation as divorce, and for a good reason, right? In terms of like the impact of divorce and what that means for both the entire family, let alone children who are impacted by it, it's a completely separate conversation. But I'll be honest, like it's in my adulthood now, and I'm sitting here trying to model and look at other examples of what. I'm not even gonna put a description to it. I'm not gonna say it's positive or negative, but let me say marriage examples that I want to model myself off of. It was crazy to realize that, unfortunately, that's not my parents. And I'm also in therapy and have some conversations with my own therapist about like the grief, the fact that even changing your concept of that, your image of your parents relationship and all of that, you also have to grieve that, because as an adult, you're realizing that it's much different than this kind of romanticized view that you had growing up. So honestly, that's first heartbreak. It may not be the heartbreak to the level of what a lot of y'all have been describing, but that was mine for sure. It's just this concept of like, they're not, going back to what we were talking about, they're not perfect, but also their relationship ain't perfect.
Yeah.
That's that's a beautiful segue, just because people are being so active in the chat. We thank you all for being here and watching live. And Dea says, my heart broke when I learned that I modeled my parents' dysfunctional communication traits, but it was so freeing once I realized it, so I could change it.
That is my favorite cousin. That is the love. That is love her. I call her my cousin. That's my sister. That is my favorite cousin of all time.
Shout out to Cuz.
Yes, and thank her for supporting the Seed and Spark campaign. We definitely appreciated that as well. What's up, Token? Oh my gosh. Did we truly understand the gravity of grief back then? Trini Boy says, for me, trying to navigate the shift from being a child to an adult and showing respect while my parents not treating me like I was a kid anymore. And that's a really delicate balance as well. I think when parents birth you, change your nasty diapers, potty train you, do your ABCs, and like raise you, and all of a sudden you like, so I learned in therapy, they're like, okay. You'll always be their baby. And so this becomes like we can very easily slip into a dynamic where we get stuck as the dirty diaper baby and not a growing adult experiencing the world with you, and that can sit next to you and not beneath you under authority all the time. And so that's a very delicate, that's a tightrope to walk.
Definitely. I also want to point out, because Ade, I think you said something so interesting that one of the things for me was kind of breaking the pain Olympics also of parents amongst like peers, in terms of like, who had it one way and who had it a different way. I think it's just like pain is pain, and we're all individuals kind of on our own journey. And so like the comparisons of pain, I often would have like my dad was in my life, though divorced, like maybe like not as frequent as I wanted to, but I found myself feeling bad because like my cousin's father had passed away, or I had a friend's father who just wasn't in his life at all. And so there was kind of this like shame of just like, all right, well, let me hold on to something. And I just want to say to you that like, I don't think, or just in general, I don't think having parents in your life in the household or outside of the household, it validates or has a sliding scale on what pain or heartbreak or whatever the case is, love and joy, kind of interact individually. So I thank you for pointing.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you for
Yeah. I honestly, I really appreciate that, because I don't think that there's a lot of space made for that, for what you just said. Sure. Honestly, I wish more people, felt that way, because I think that there's this, again, like we romanticize the 2-parent household kind of system without like really even breaking down whether or not like the household is even the place that fosters like, facts, the growth of the family and the children and all of that. So no, I really appreciate that. I do, because I'll say that a lot of times in these conversations, a lot of times I like actively take the back seat, because I'm like, my parent I don't have divorced parents. Like my dad was in my life. Like both of my parents are alive. Who am I to complain? But what you just said, for sure, I resonate with that a lot. For sure.
Yeah.
That brings me to an interesting point, because this was a major quote that I used from Bell Hooks in her book All About Love, that sets the tone for the story I'm telling in She Loves Me Not. And I'll put it up here for everyone, where our lead character is sort of using the quote of Bell Hooks to ponder love, right? Bell Hooks described genuine love as a combination of care, commitment, trust, knowledge, responsibility, and respect. Is it too big of an ask from one person? And I think when I see love from generations, from my parents, being together and maybe you're in love is not enough. And that's exactly what this story is pondering. Like, what are the pieces of ourselves that we need to make sure that we are intentionally showing up with for our partners and for ourselves, to make sure that we are doing love as healthily as possible? I may love you, but did I respect you today? I may love you, but did I recognize you today? I may love you, but did I show you care today? Like, if aspects are missing, it just starts an erosion, and you find yourself so broken that screaming at each other until one of you are storming out of the house is the answer. So how do we approach love from a preventative and intentional way, a thoughtful way, an intellectual way, to make sure that it's feeding us as fully as possible?
Yeah.
That's a bar.
It's heavy. I don't even know where to start with that one.
I think. Oh, were you asking that, or was that?
Oh, I wasn't asking.
That was a question for like a minute.
Yeah,
okay. Just, letting the room digest.
That was definitely powerful.
Okay.
There's a shift in the culture because many of us are actively challenging dynamics that our elders have. Not being in survival mode plays a big part. And you're shopping at Target with that one. Thank you, Token.
Absolutely.
Not being in survival, but I love it.
Yeah. There's all right. So I because time purposes, I want to like get some more questions, and like we talked about our pain in terms of heartbreak and our relationship with our parents, as diverse as they might be. But let's talk about the process in which, we talked about healing. We talk about healing, which I believe is continuous. I know, people like, I'm healed and healed and healed, but like new situations always come up, new things always approach. I know for me, in terms of, I thought for me, like things with my father were like, Crystal, I'm good. I got out all the shit I needed to say. And then boom, another situation happened that kind of threw me back into the fire. So I wanted to kind of talk about what healing has looked like for all of our childhood trauma. Even if we're still on the as we still are the journey, what is it looking like currently? Let me start with Tristan this time.
Okay. I think it's been acceptance, honestly. Like the things that I felt were shortcomings, it's been acceptance, it's been conversations. I'm very lucky that I have a mother that anything that I have a question about, anything that I feel the need to discuss, she'll sit down and she'll talk to me about until I feel comfortable about it. And sometimes those get really heavy and like we might end up yelling at each other. We might have to take a day not talking to each other. We might have to not talk to each other for a day. We might both be crying. There's been moments where we talk through things and she'll be like, I don't always love when you start to be the parent when we're having these conversations. But I think for me, the healing has been somewhat eased by her because she allows me to feel whatever it is. And she offers me the answer. And I think that for a lot of us, our parents didn't answer things when we had questions. It was because I said so. And I'm lucky that like she wasn't really that when I was a child. And now that I'm an adult, she's very aware of how I feel about that as an answer for things. Or her just being short. So her being short was an answer. So the healing for me comes from us being able to have actual conversations and me to have a better understanding. And I might still not like the answer or like the outcome or like what it was that started it, but I have an understanding of it and I can accept it. So mine has always been accepting just what the reality of it is and then moving on from there. And after that, I can whatever it is from that moment forward, the new relationship has been established and our new lines of respect and our new lines of who we are has been established. And we live in that world now.
I love that. Ade.
I mean, for me, the answer is always the same. Is therapy. Yeah, I feel like anybody who knows me pretty well knows that I do not shy away from the idea and the fact that I'm currently in therapy. I will stamp it on my chest. I'm a therapy. I'm currently in therapy. I have no shame around it. I really feel like it has done wonders in terms of my own healing. And like a lot of people said in the comments, and like people have been saying, it's a journey. It's not a destination. And for me, kind of unlearning some of the stuff that I normalized, or at least questioning some of the things that I thought were normal and are things that I can't change. So it is what it is type of thing, talking to somebody to really put that into question and say, well, why can't you change that? Why can't you have those conversations has been huge for me, frankly. And I would say that the next step in terms of healing when we come to this topic about parents is to get my parents, you know what I'm saying? Get my parents involved to be able to have the conversations that Tristan are having, that Tristan mentioned having, because I'm not having them yet. Between Black community, not really fucking with therapy, then Nigerian, African immigrants that not fucking with it, let alone religious. On top of that, my mom is a deaconess in the church. Like, just all of these added factors that are just like therapy is just not like a thing. We don't do it. That for me is the next frontier in terms of like my own healing, because there's a lot of stuff that I know that I want to, and conversations that I want to have with my mom that I can't, because she doesn't even have the capacity. Sounds very denigrating, and I don't mean that. I mean in the sense of the language around like what we're talking about here, type of thing.
Tosh, I would love to hear your point of view.
Yeah, I brought up therapy to my dad, and it was like Rita Rasputin came down, and I had to be a Power Ranger because we got some bucks, and it was just like, it's okay. I'm not attacking your identity as a well person. I'm not saying, I'm disappointed in you. You are not a bad boy. You got to speak to the inner child. But there's a natural defense that comes up because our parents' generation were taught that therapy is for the loonies. Okay. Therapy is for the absolutely broken. And if your child is insinuating that you are broken, that can then further mean I was a bad parent and didn't do right by this person that I gave my all to. And it becomes this unsaid, unconscious shaming. And it's like, no, it's not that. It's because I love you so much that I want you to be well. I want to continue this parental child relationship with you. I want to grow in adulthood with you. I want you in my world. And I would like it to be as healthy as possible. And I can give you the tools to help you help yourself. But for what my healing looked like with the childhood traumas, definitely 2020, the pandemic was a turning point for me. That is when I completely dove into my spirituality and shadow work. Baby, I got to journaling. I got to asking myself the hard questions. I got to challenging my limiting beliefs and my self-narratives. Why do I engage in these certain friendships? Why do I engage in these certain romantic relationships? How do I feel about me that I would allow these people to be constantly crossing my boundaries or disrespecting me or not showing me the love that I demand? What in my childhood curated the way that I make myself happy? What does my self-love look like? And once you start to ask yourself these challenging things, you realize that it bleeds into every area of your life. It bleeds into how you show up with your money. It bleeds into how you create. It bleeds into every single piece. And I just felt like I was in a rut because I was trying to be something and achieve something and do something. And an old friend of mine was like, why don't you pay attention to your emotions? And when she said it, it made no sense. I was like, what the hell is the link? I don't get it. But it was a way to unlock something to free myself. And so I was able to move into flow and ask for more things and be in an emotional and a spiritual space to receive bigger things. I think I wouldn't have gone after the huge opportunities I've gone after had I been of the same old mind and spirit. I really had to dig into something to be like, I am bigger, but bigger is inside. Bigger is not the stuff. Bigger is inside, and it calls in the stuff that I don't allow to validate me, but it's nice to have. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It
ain't bad.
Nah. I love all the answers. Just because it's so self-reflective of my individual journey as well. Specifically with my parents, I think that one thing that has really helped me with my healing journey has been the ability to converse with my parents about themselves. I think oftentimes I was trying, I didn't want to be like my dad, but I didn't know in which ways that me and my dad were similar until I got older. And it became like a roadmap for me, good and bad. I think something that also has helped is understanding how gifted and brilliant my parents were to give me abilities that I didn't know where they came from sometimes. And getting older and having more tougher conversations and more knowledgeable conversations and just general conversations about being humans has helped me really in my healing journey. Therapy as well, don't get me wrong, but therapy has given me the tools to start these conversations.
Exactly.
And these conversations really unlocked a lot. Even when my parents, might not have had the tools to do the work, the fact that I did made me navigate it through different angles. So I started to hear more about my father's pain and my mother's pain, and realize how if I didn't know this, this is why I fell into that trap. This is why I tripped over that roadblock. And now I better know how to navigate it because I see a different map of my genetics. So that has helped truly move me forward. So I wanted to say that to ask this, what has been some of the most challenging and toughest conversations you've had to have with your parents in adulthood? Let me start with Tosh first. And then
I was like, let me raise my hand.
I got you.
The conversation I had with my mama was so healing, but she gave herself to me in a way that allowed us to be vulnerable and transparent with each other and allowed us to hold each other accountable. And this conversation was so good. I DM'd Solange that night because
Solange,
a seat at the table was the soundtrack to us merging missed years with each other. Like it was having Solange singing in the back where I was like, you used to braid my hair and then I just didn't see you for a really long time. And that kind of really changed, it altered my brain chemistry. Like it really changed me to like suddenly not have you around. And talk to her about how we have different relationships. My sister and I have different relationships with my parents and with my mother, and the things that I expect from her moving forward. And just sort of giving her the critique of how her parenthood has impacted me as her daughter. And how we can change our relationships now that I'm a woman, I'm an adult, how our relationship can change from here on out. And Solange sang all about it. And so it was beautiful.
Love that. Yeah.
It was needed, but it was beautiful.
Shout out to Solange.
Shout out to Solange.
Necessary, yes.
Shout out to Solange. Shout out to the elevator. We got the elevator was yo.
Shout out to
the elevator healed us through 3 albums.
Oh,
three albums of healing came from the elevator.
I might even. I love that. I love that. Hall of Fame albums too. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Ade.
I think. Well, so I've had some very difficult conversations. But I think that there's more to be had. So even the one that I'm going to reference, I really don't feel like was as hard as what I think we really need to start having. But I'll say this, one for sure was, again, right before I was getting married. And it's really a conversation with my mom, because my dad, there's still a lot of work to do in terms of feelings and being honest and like really get into it in a way that, it's just typical of Black men and all of that. But for my mom, I remember having a conversation with her before getting married, because there was just so many expectations and so many kind of like rules and stuff with respect, especially in our culture, with respect to like how you're supposed to, as kids, you're supposed to show up, and it's so much control. I got to a point where I literally had to be like, I don't know where all of this comes from, but I need to let you know that your son is getting married, and he's the one who's getting married, and he is the one who's going to create the marriage and the lifestyle and the future that he wants with his future wife, which does not include you. I'm not married to you. You know what I mean? I'm sorry to say it, but like starting from this point and moving forward, there is someone who actually is more of a priority than you. And that sounds so like minuscule in the course of this topic about healing and all of that. But one thing that we did not get into in terms of this conversation is the control that parents feel like they need to continue to have in their kids' lives, even into adulthood, in a way where they think that they should be your priority. They're paramount. They're incredibly important. But at the end of the day, yourself, your partner or whatever is more important. So that was that conversation leading up to the wedding, like, hey, yo, she don't need to show you her dress before she purchases it. Like that's not what we doing here.
That's heavy.
That was so courageous of you. There are so many. Well, there are some women who complain about how their fiancés and their husbands don't step up to mom. It's like, well, that's between y'all. I don't get in ladies' business or whatever. So it was so honorable and courageous of you to set that boundary with your new family. And that line in the sand does need to be drawn between the women. And the fact that you did it and just kept it moving.
Well, listen, I mean, the funny thing is that I think part of it is being the youngest child. Like my older sister always said that, like, I wasn't the one. Like I saw stuff that they did with my older sister, and I was like, I'm not, that ain't gonna happen. So I was way more vocal. I had a lot more, I'm the man in terms of the siblings. So I had a little bit more rope when it came to that. But to your point though, it was it was very difficult because I could have easily, and it's very common to just be like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna get in the middle of the day. Y'all work it out. But at the end of the day, I was like, where am I sleeping tonight? It ain't gonna be with you. So just being real.
Wow.
It's powerful. Tristan, I would love to hear.
Yeah, I think mine actually came. I want to say the last time I was at home, which was a couple of months ago. So my grandmother's going through dementia right now, and she's on hospice. So like me and my mom, we were leaving the hospital, and we were just like, we got home. My other cousins were there, and like they started talking about. My mom was talking about being, you know, growing up under my grandma. My cousin, India's mom, who's on here, was talking about growing up under my aunt, and like how both of their mothers kind of pitted them against each other. And being an only child, I've never been compared. Being an only child, my mother never compared me to anyone, but my grandma often compared me to my cousins. Whether it would be like, this cousin is getting A's. What are you doing in school? This cousin is actually playing on the football team. What are you doing on the football team? And like my grandma's one of my favorite people, but like hearing my mother explain what it was like growing up, being the firstborn child. And my mother's situation is the same as Ade's. My mom is the first one, and my uncle. Hearing my mother explain what it was like being critiqued about everything that she did, everyone that she decided to date, you know, that came by being evaluated by that. My mother's light skin, my grandma's dark skin. Growing up, my mother talking about growing up with that in the household. Then comes me at 22, and she's unmarried, and my mother dealing with like my grandma being mad about that, but then other people in the neighborhood who was younger, who had kids in high school, that my grandma was still like, yeah, but that's different, and it's like, no, it's not. And then like my mom, all my art comes from my mom and my grandfather. My mother can look at a dress and remake it, can draw it, can give you the pattern, can do all that. And hearing her sacrifices to make sure that I get to go, you know, make a short film like this and do all these things and really live out my dreams and not be hindered by having to live in realities. A lot of the healing came from understanding the sacrifices that she made in her own happiness to make sure that I was happy, but also things that she shielded me from when she protected me against, you know, family members that had desires of what I needed to do, what was being put on me that she didn't think was fair to her child to be put on. Like, I remember I came home. This is my 4th year at university. I came home. I had just left the admissions office, and I had found out that we were going. You know, we had a little victory lap year. You know, extracurriculars from Alpha happened. Things happened. So we're doing a little 5th year, and I came home. And at the time, my mother had just had surgery, so she was like she was still out of it. And she was like, "Oh, that's okay, baby, it happens." And then the next day, that medicine wore off, and I remember like my bedroom door flying open, and I'm like, I know you're not doing a 5th year playing around, and I'm paying for school, and you know, like being able to laugh about those moments now, and like even in that when she was mad, it was still like you fucked up, but let's fix it and see how we fix it. So being able to go back to those moments to be like, yeah, she's always done her best to protect me, and no matter what it was. So I think the more the context comes, the more that I still see where I was still protected while she was like, for a long time, my mother slept on the couch in our living room so I could have a bedroom to my own in our grandparents' house, you know. And those are things that we don't think about, and we don't really like weigh into like how uncomfortable it is, like years of work every day you're going to work, and then your ass is on a 3-section couch, you know, a 3-cushion couch. So it's that. So I think like that's the healing that I've gotten, is like I see her more as an adult now that we're able to have adult conversations.
Yeah.
I see her more as a not an adult, but more as a well-rounded person that's lived a lot of times.
Yes.
And even when we talk about relationships, like my mother's dated of the dating my mother might have done, like I've only met 3 men, and they've all been after like a year and a half into a relationship, where I was extremely protected in all of these, you know. And the moment that I was like, nah, if I said no, that nigga was gone. And a lot of single parents are not sacrificing that at all.
Right.
They're not at all.
Yeah. Like I I totally agree. And I would love to continue the conversation. Unfortunately, it's been an hour. We kind of got a wrap. I want to thank you all for not only just being here and sharing, but like your openness, your honesty, your vulnerability. Um, I can't wait to see this project, especially if like we're able to share a labor of love and honesty right now. I know that's being put inside the ingredients of what this is. So I encourage everybody before we leave this stream to make sure you hit up that Seed and Spark link.
Yes, yes.
Contribute, because as you see, there's a lot of love, there's a lot of intentionality, and there's a lot of honesty. And I think those are all the great ingredients to amazing art. So I want to thank everybody for being here. Of course, Latasha, our wonderful writer and creator, Tristan, our amazing director, and Ade, our producer extraordinaire. Everybody in the comments, thank y'all for being here. Thank y'all for spending your Tuesday with us. I'm Jameer Pond. Y'all take care. And
we have an announcement before we go.
My bad. Boom.
Big announcement.
Big announcement, because we're doing a 4-part series all about love right here on this channel. And this was episode 2. So for episode 3, next Monday, 6 p.m. PST, we have the incredible Mara Brock Akil coming in for an interview, baby.
Wow.
Yes. The most beautiful, wise, wonderful, helpful. When you guys get to know her the way I have had the pleasure of getting to know her for the past year and a half, like, I'm so excited she'll be joining me. It'll be a one-on-one interview. And, she is not only a master storyteller, but specifically a master storyteller all about love, from Girlfriends to Being Mary Jane to Love Is to The Game to her upcoming series on Netflix called Forever, about 2 young teens falling in love. And we're going to comb through her work. Do you hear me? Do you understand? We are going to comb through that woman's work right here next Monday. So don't miss it. Okay.
The original love historian. I feel like we all grew up on how she wrote about love. Honestly, it's crazy. So
yes. Hit after hit after hit after hit. She'll be right here next Monday. So don't miss it. Jameer, I love you so much. Thank you for hosting. You are incredible, wise, intelligent, wonderful, beautiful Black man. Okay.
Thank you.
Don't bring me no surprise nieces and nephews. You're gonna talk to me first, and we're gonna have to plan this out together.
I'll rub her up.
Thank you.
I'll rub her up. I'll rub her up.
I'll rub her up.
All right, y'all. Speaking about love, we're gonna wrap it up. All right. Good night.
There you go.
Bye.
There you go.
Take care.
Bye.